and a few questions about the 80s and 90s. Okay, first question. Where were you when the Columbia launched?
I was living in Stonington, Maine. I was working in a sardine factory and on sardine carriers, fishing boats. I had just gotten married. I was, we had our first baby who passed away right after birth. And it was a rough year first in 81. The Columbia.
Yep.
To be honest, I really didn't pay that much attention to it. I knew that it had launched and that it was successful, but it was a pretty busy year, and I really didn't pay that much attention to it.
Okay. Did you hear about the Bernhard Goetz indictment? Bernhard Goetz indictment?
Bernhard Goetz.
Yeah.
That's the guy that was just convicted?
Possibly. I'm not sure.
Well, he was convicted of a Ponzi scheme here, just a year ago. I'm assuming that's the person you're talking about.
He was indicted in 81.
Gates?
Goetz.
Goats. No, I've never heard of that one, to be honest with you. I don't know who that is.
Okay. How about the Challenger accident? Did that affect you at all?
In 1986, I believe that's when the Challenger exploded. I was still working in Stonington. I actually had my own lobster boat for a short time, and my brother Terry was living in Florida at the time, and he saw the Challenger explode from his backyard, and he took pictures of it, and we have them pictures somewhere. As far as affecting me, it was a horrible accident. You know, it was a horrible thing. 7 people, lost their lives on the mistake of greediness of NASA and their scientists to launch this thing in the cold when they knew better than to launch it. And I was pretty angry about that. So, yeah, I had a bad taste in my mouth about NASA for a long time, and all the stuff that went along with that exploding.
You probably heard about Reagan's visit to Berlin.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were during that?
I do remember where I was. I was in Florida for a short time. I don't know how much of my background you want to get into, but it was kind of a rough year. And what year was that now?
I believe about 87.
87, yeah, I believe you're right. And I had just come home back to Maine, and I was working, I was fishing. Actually, I was fishing on the Grand Duchess in Gloucester, Massachusetts. We was longlining for swordfish. And I remember seeing his speech from the wall, the Berlin Wall, about Gorbachev take down this wall, which was, quite a historic moment. But yeah, no, it really didn't affect me that much. I was fishing. I was a longliner.
Uh, were you ever affected, or did you hear anything about the droughts in the Midwest during that time?
No, I really didn't.
Do you remember where you were when H.W. Bush was inaugurated?
That's the second Bush, right?
The first one.
First Bush. He was inaugurated in what?
Uh,
80,
88, I believe.
88. In 88, I was just sobering up. And that was quite a year for me. And I do remember when he was inaugurated. Well, one of the few things I remember from that year. But yeah, I remember I was living in Dover, Foxcroft, and I was working at Darigold Lumber in Greenville. I was a millwright at Darigold Lumber. So I moved around a lot, did a lot of different jobs, and yes, I remember.
How'd you feel about it?
At that time, I really didn't have too many thoughts about it. I was kind of getting my life back together and on track, and George Bush wasn't on the top of my list of worrying about, about things. But as time went on, I think he did, he did some good things for the country. But it, as far as affected me, I was just going on with my life.
Okay. Do you remember where you were when you heard about the Exxon Valdez oil spill?
That was, what year was that? That was...
I think about 88 also.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it. And it really peed me off. I was real angry about that one. Because that was no need of that. And I like the environment, and I like, the wild and animals. And when something like that happens, it really angers me to no end. Especially when they try to make excuses when there are no excuses.
Yeah. On a possibly more happier note, around that time The Simpsons also debuted.
I remember The Simpsons debut, and I don't remember the exact date, but I can remember coming on the air and watching a few of the episodes, and I thought it was kind of corny, but kind of, it was different. It was different. It was different having a primetime show on as a cartoon, as an animated show, but it was good for a change. It was. They touched on some pretty touchy subjects.
Yeah.
And which I thought was good.
Shortly after that, the Gulf War began. Do you recall where you were when you heard about that?
I can tell you exactly where I was. I was in Lubeck, Maine, working at Lubeck Packing. I was sitting at a little restaurant. At the time it was called Ivy's Restaurant. Me and a friend of mine, Mark Buell, and I believe your mother, Tyler, was sitting at a table when the first missiles were shot into Iraq. Not Iraq, I believe it was Iraq. But we were sitting watching it on TV, and as it was all unfolding. And it was early, it was in the evening, and it was quite a night, to to watch, to see the whole thing unfolding on TV. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, had mixed feelings about it.
Okay. Also around that time, the Cold War was officially ended. How'd you feel about that?
I was glad that we finally opened up dialogue with Russia and started communicating, getting rid of some more of the nuclear missiles that the world really did need. But it was a relief, because I grew up in a time of, it was real high tension, you know, the Cold War.
Yeah. Do you recall the standoff in Waco, Texas, between police and the Branch Davidians?
Yes, I do. I recall that vividly. That was something else that made me very angry. I believe that the FBI, the ATF, and all of them were way out of control. They did it wrong, and then they lied about it, tried to cover it all up, and blame them people for attacking them. And that subject I could go on for a long time and be really angry at our government and the ATF and the law enforcement, because I feel they figure they can do anything they want and get away with it, same as they did at Ruby Ridge.
Yeah. How about the Oklahoma City bombing?
That was in '93?
I believe so.
No, it wasn't either, because you had been born. You was living. Yeah, we was getting the year when they bombed the Oklahoma City building. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but we had moved to Oklahoma, and you were a baby, like 18 months old, and I thought it was a horrible thing that you know, that these kids died, these little babies died in this bombing. I feel that Timothy McVeigh he had his reasons for doing this, but I believe he did it wrong by killing innocent people. But yeah, we just moved to Oklahoma, and that was in '95, I think. He was born in '94. 95, 96, along those lines. But I drove a little Nissan pickup covered with a blue top, and I figured I'd get arrested somewhere along the line.
Do you remember hearing anything about OJ being acquitted?
I was sitting on a couch in Oklahoma in a trailer park that we was managing with my boss, Larry Ord. And we sat there and could not believe that man just got acquitted of murders that he committed. That was another point that I could get pretty angry about.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Oh, let's see, old Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Where was I? I think we were living in Franklin at the time. No, we was living in Etna. And I just laughed. All I could do was laugh. I just thought it was hilarious. I didn't see what it really had to do with with our government being run. But I can remember I just laughed. You know, I just couldn't believe what was going on, but nothing surprises me anymore, so.
Did you ever hear about the bombings of the embassies in Tanzania and Kenya?
I heard about them. I didn't know a lot about them, of who did it. I think it was the Taliban that they ended up deciding that bombed them. And I know that Americans were killed, I believe. I think they were. And yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it, but and I don't know where I was at the time. 'Cause I don't remember the years. I remember hearing about it though.
Okay. Do you remember the Columbine murders?
Yes, I do. That I was very sad with. That, as I watched it unfolding, I felt that it was two kids that were bullied most of their lives, and then when I saw people defending, saying that these kids weren't bullied, saying, oh, we wouldn't treat kids like that, I was real angry that people wouldn't take responsibility and just blaming these kids right outright for all this. Yeah. And if you bully someone enough, and push them hard enough, they will retaliate. And I believe that's that happened in Columbine.
Yeah. Were you ever worried by the Y2K computer virus?
No, not at all. I'm not real computer. I'm not real handy on a computer anyways, and I just kind of chuckled about the whole thing, and I was waiting for the big crash actually.
Just kind of hoping for it.
Yeah, just hoping for it all to fall apart, but it didn't. I didn't really think it would, but.
Do you remember anything about the USS Cole bombing?
That's where the Taliban took the small boat and floated, blew it up in the side of the ship, didn't it?
Yeah.
Killed some of our sailors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I watched that. I followed that quite a bit on the news, and you know, it's just a horrible story that more people died because of religious fanatics that, you know, think that way's the only way.
Yeah. Do you remember where you were when Bush was inaugurated? The second one?
Second, yeah, George Bush. Oh yeah, we was living in Etna, and I almost fell over and fainted when I found out that man had been elected president. As you might know, I don't have much good to say about him. Him or Dick Cheney.
Yeah. Do you remember what happened during, or where you were during the 9/11 attacks?
Yes, I do. I was sitting in Etna at our home, and I just turned on Good Morning America. Your mother called me from work and asked me if I'd seen the news, and I told her I just turned it on, and that one of the towers was burning. And as we was talking on the phone, I watched the other plane fly into the other tower. And right after that, where we lived in Etna was the flight path for the Air National Guard in Bangor. And fighter jets went over our house, seemed like they weren't 1,000 feet above our home. The whole house shook. And then the refueling planes flew out. And it was quite a wild morning. But, yeah, it was an awful thing. Because I'd been inside the Twin Towers. The man that brought me up took me there. So, yeah, it was a hard day.
Did you know anybody?
That was in the towers?
Yeah.
No. No. Pete's cousin had already, Pete the man that brought me up.
Yeah.
His cousin had a office in the Twin Towers back in the early 80s, but he'd already, he had passed away from cancer. So I did know someone at one time, but they weren't there when the towers crashed. But there was two people in the plane, one of the planes that came from Maine, that a friend of mine, David, and I used to shovel their walkway. They were on the planes that hit the towers. I can't remember the names. They were just an old couple that they were going. Apparently, they were going to California to their daughter's wedding. And it was the first time they had ever flown. And me and David Burke used to shovel their pathway in the winter. So,
Wow.
you know, it was kind of a sad moment. I mean, I didn't really know him that well, but knew him.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, thank you.